and welcome to Rock Paper Swords. My name is Matthew Harvey.
My name is Stephen A. Mackay.
Thank you to all our patrons. If you would like exclusive bonus episodes every month, a free copy of our book, tips on writing, publishing and marketing your book, and other cool perks, check out our Patreon page. We are here at the Historical Novel Society Conference 2024 in Dartington Hall in Devon. We're wandering the grounds and the halls, interviewing the delegates and speakers at the event, and we have some great guests lined up.
In this short episode we have Ian Mortimer, today's after dinner speaker actually. He talks to us about the Time Traveller's Guides, fascination with medieval things, and the music that he likes to write battle scenes to.
Hello. Who have we got here with us? We've got the wonderful Ian Mortimer. Ian Mortimer, yes. Historian and author extraordinaire. So, here we are in the Historical Novel Society Conference in Dartington in Devon. And first off, Ian, just tell us a little bit about how you're finding the conference. What do you think of it?
Well, I've only been here today. I haven't seen yesterday because I didn't need to see the sites. I live in Devon. I eat, live and breathe history here. I walk around Devon. I'm part of it. So performing today was the thing for me. So I'll come along today and I will give a speech again this evening as well after dinner.
Brilliant. Looking forward to it. So you've written lots of books in or a few books in the Time Traveller's Guide series.
I've written 4 Time Traveller's Guides to medieval Elizabethan, Restoration and Regency Britain.
Yeah, so how did you come up with the concept of the Time Traveller's Guides in the first place?
That's a very good question. Trying to keep it brief. I was more than a nerd when I was a kid. I would take my parents, aged 9, 10, to historic sites, the opposite of what you normally imagine, parents dragging their kids around. Anyway, one day I dragged my parents to Skenfrith Castle, White Castle and Grosmont Castle. These 3 were Lancastrian castles on the Welsh border. And I was really excited by the third one we're going to see, Grosmont, because that was the birthplace of Henry Duke of Lancaster, one of the greatest soldiers of the 14th century. And I was imagining on the car on the way to this third castle, I haven't seen the first 2, I was imagining Lady Lancaster being pregnant and coming down to the hall, and the hall being there with painted red marks marking out the stonework as they're used to, and a fire on the dais in the middle, and the servants coming in, and musicians playing, or probably with a bad back or something like that due to her pregnancy, and the priest there, and the ladies in waiting. And when I got there and it was a bloody ruin, I was so disappointed because I just summed up what I thought I would see. And when I moved to one end of the Great Hall, which was an empty shell, and saw somebody's name, it's one of those old Department of Environment metal signs, it had somebody's name with the brackets and the date of the death after them. I was suddenly taken back a week earlier when I'd been to the Mortimer Museum in London and seen 10,000 butterflies laid out in glass cases all pinned down dead. And I was thinking, we don't walk through life with our death dates after our name. Like the butterflies, they're best seen flying around. I want history that flies around, not is pinned out. And I thought, well, I want to get involved. And of course that didn't go down well at school at all. And but as I've always had this understanding that at one extreme we're talking about real life unfolding, and at the other end of the extreme we talk about hard information, which is one of my specialities too. So between those 2 extremes, how do you show there's life in the past, and how do you ascertain what actually happened? Time Traveller's Guides came out of that. So, a fully referenced, academically researched guide to life being alive in the past.
Well, I've read the medieval one. I think it's fantastic, and it was a great resource for me. In fact, David Gilman, who we just had on, he said the same thing. So I think you've helped quite a lot of
good.
historical authors. But one of our patrons, Susan Nolan, says, "Tell Ian Mortimer that his guide to medieval England is brilliant and an essential resource for me while writing my novel." So just repeating what I've said. But why do you think people are so fascinated with the medieval period?
It takes them away. There is an escapist element, undoubtedly. It takes people away from the confines of the modern world and expands their perceptions a little bit. Matthew, something you said in your talk about authenticity and accuracy. I once gave a talk to the Historical Novel Society about 10 years ago about how authenticity is even harder than accuracy. If I had to stick in a historical novel an Elizabethan historical novel, such as I have written, that my main character was really looking forward to going to a bear baiting, and really looking forward to that bit at the end, which everybody loved, where a monkey is strapped to an old horse and the dogs were released on it, and the monkey is screaming to survive as the horse is ripped to shreds by dogs underneath it. People loved that. But if I made my character love that, I'd lose all my readers straight away. Authenticity is really, really hard. Now, the medieval period, to be authentic to medieval, well, that's really hard, as you did say. But in doing so, and in alluding to life being lived in such a different way, you do take people very quickly away from the modern world and the concerns here.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, and something that I think we all struggle with as historical novelists, with that. How do you make people likable when they're involved in things that are really abhorrent to us? Yeah. And that's right up until quite recently in history as well. So things like slavery, and quite 150 years ago even. And you think, how do you write a sympathetic character that in Roman times has got slaves or whatever?
Your cowboy novel with the kind of language used,
exactly.
insults and stuff like that you wouldn't get away with now.
Yeah. I really struggled with with finding the right balance of believability and authenticity, but also something that people can swallow.
The way I configure this, and I've written, it's not published yet, but I have written on this very simple, what should we really be doing? Think of it as a triangulation. So think of a point in the past you're trying to write about. That's your starting point. Draw a line from there through time to us now, the historian. That's one line of the triangle. But your next line of the triangle goes from you, the historian or the writer or the novelist, to your audience. And there you have another point, because that audience is also going to have a relationship with what you're talking about. So quite independently of you, they will form what they think about the past. And so it goes round, from the past to the writer, to the audience, and back to the past. Now, if you think of that triangle, the triangulation of history, or the triangulation of historical fiction, two corners of that triangle are in the present day. In many ways, the most important relationship, the one you have to make work, because otherwise you won't sell any books, is the one in the present day.
That's a fantastically well put. It's something that my wife's a librarian, and we talk a lot about books and all this. And she always says, you remember you're writing about for people now. Yeah. If they don't buy it, there's no point in writing it. So would you like to write a 100% authentic book that nobody reads, nobody enjoys?
I've tried.
Well. So talking of writing novels and historical fiction, back in 2017, you published a novel called
The Outcast of Time. That was my fourth novel. That was.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you how many novels have you written before, but and could you just tell us a little bit about whether you've got plans to write any more novels? So how many? I want to write
a comic satire, but I'm not quite sure when I'm going to find the time to do it. The first three novels I wrote under my middle name, James Forrester. The reason I wanted to write historical novels was not for any idle creative purpose. What I wanted to do was use fiction to show something you couldn't really do in non-fiction. The idea was that if you put somebody in the 1560s, you can show how important loyalty was. Loyalty to your king, queen as it was in that case, loyalty to your friends in your locality, loyalty to your spouse, loyalty to your religion. Loyalty was a matter of life and death in so many different ways in the 1560s. And I thought, if I wrote a trilogy of novels there and actually had Catholicism at the heart of it, and infidelity or the potential for infidelity as part of it, then I would actually show how important loyalty was. Today, if somebody goes and is unfaithful, it's really only a private affair. If somebody expresses distaste of the government, well, don't we all? I'm not going to be hanged for it. If I get the religion, I'm not religious, but no one's going to burn me at the stake. I hope no one's going to burn me at the stake. Then it's totally different. And that was real life for everybody, really, at the time. So life can be lived, as I hope the Time Traveller's Guides show, in very different ways. But showing the importance of loyalty, I could say that in a Time Traveller's Guide, but to show it, I needed to use fiction. The 2017 novel, Outcast of Time, that's about two brothers from where I live in Hampstead in the 14th century, who basically catch the plague and try and sell their souls to the devil to survive. But they're told they have 6 days left to live. No one can make their lives any longer, their fates any longer. But they're given a choice. You can either go home and down your beds, or you can come back and live each one of your last 6 days 99 years after the previous one. They obviously choose the latter, otherwise it'd be a very short book. So they come back in 1447, 1546, 1645, 1744, 1843, 1942, and they not only see how the locality changes and how it stays the same, how the people change, how their attitudes change, all that. They also see what differences they, through their decision making in the 14th century, have on a massive scale. This was the reason for writing it as a novel. The little things you do in the 14th century are going to have potentially enormous consequences in the 17th, 18th, 19th. And there's no way of... people don't live 600 years, so it had to be a novel. And you had to highlight very quickly and efficiently what was changing, what was staying the same, or where the surprises were coming from. There's a real positive value in using fiction to tell serious historical stories. In my mind, there's a big division between somebody who's writing purely for entertainment and somebody who has points like this to make. But for me, and I consider myself a serious historian specialising in information and perspective and understanding things from an archival point of view. To me, fiction is an essential tool in the toolbox for telling people about the importance of the past.
Absolutely. Well, we'll make this the last one, so you can go and listen to Michael Jecks.
A good friend of mine.
Well, this is one of our favourite questions that we always ask everyone on the podcast. Do you listen to music when you write?
I listen to a lot of music, but not when I'm writing. Two answers to that. Yes, I do listen to music when I write because I've got a massive record collection and I listen to stuff which doesn't have any words in it.
Yeah.
You can't. You can't. If it's something you can understand. So. European language, no, it can't be singing in it at all. So it's got to be, and I also do get a lot of power from certain pieces of music. If you want to write about a battle, this is my recommendation. You read everything you possibly can about that battle. You get all the primary sources open at the right page before you start. You lay them all out at the place you want to go to. You drink a quarter of a bottle of whiskey. You listen to Verdi's Requiem, and then you can write about a battle.
I think that's pretty much sums up the way you write, doesn't it, Steve?
Well, that's a good way to write.
That's where I write every scene.
I can only do that for battles.
That explains some of the love scenes I've written.
Yeah. But the other thing I want to say when you write, I used to try and write to music and less so, but what I still do, is I always buy some coins from the period I'm writing about. Yeah. And so I have them on my desk because these are real artworks and they're real contact points with the past. It's not just made in the past, it's woven its way into people's lives through their pockets, through their wallets, through their purses. It's paid for bread, it's paid for houses, it's paid for sex, it's paid probably for everything you can possibly imagine. And then it comes down to you in the present day. And when I was writing the Restoration Time Traveller's Guide, and it was a custom of London traders, when they received the first coin of the day, to spit on it and put it in their top pocket. And then I found myself thinking, those half dozen coins I just bought must have been spat on endless times, and here I am treasuring them. I take inspiration from coins like that. Nothing's valuable, no gold or anything like that, but just the thing that's woven its way from the past and come down to me. I love those.
I tried to buy one from Alfred the Great's period.
All right, expensive.
Yeah, exactly. So I just bought a reproduction. But you see, I had it on the desk next to me, and it was a connection then you've got that you wouldn't have otherwise. But right. I really like the idea of you that buying a real one. That people have really touched and used.
They've bought so many things. There's no way of it has a real past, but it doesn't have any history because you don't know where it's been.
Well, thanks. It's been absolutely fascinating, and I'm sure that we could talk for a lot longer. So if you would come back on the podcast...
Absolutely, anytime.
Longer episode, and we can ask you lots more questions. So that'd be brilliant. Thanks very much for coming, and go and enjoy Michael Jecks' chat, and we'll see you later for the evening meal or after dinner talk. So
Radio.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Ian.
Cheers.